I'm Stoica. I'm a faculty at UC Berkeley, working at the intersection between AI, systems, cloud computing, and a bit of security. And I am also a co-founder of and executive chairman of Databricks and Anyscale. I am also co-founder and board member of Opaque systems.
Wonderful. And I'm Marshall Kirkpatrick. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Jan, will you tell us a little bit about the problem being solved by confidential computing?
The problem is kind of very simple, and it sits at the intersection of some very powerful trends. On one hand, we have AI in general and generative Gen AI in particular as a huge vectors of growth. It's pretty clear that while there is it's a little bit of hype today, long term they are going to transform and impact every industry. So no enterprise can afford to not at least experiment and use it to enhance their product services to improve their businesses, whether it's top line, improving the revenue, or bottom, cutting the costs. And in order to get value from generative AI, what enterprises have, their edge is their data. It's not their models, because the models are going to use, all the enterprises are going to use the same kind of models, be it open source or some of the existing today proprietary models like ChatGPT, Anthropic Opus, and so forth, or Gemini. So on one hand, these companies want more and more data to train. A lot of data is sensitive because sensitive data typically has more values. On the other hand, there are more and more regulations on what you are allowed to use, how you are going to allow to use this data. We know that there are, GDPR or California Consumer Privacy Act, which put strong constraints to enforce the privacy and confidentiality of the data. But when it comes to generative AI, there are more and more, actually a lot of new regulations. The last time when I looked, only in US, across all the states, there are 700 bills in the work which wants to regulate AI in some shape or form. So on one hand, you want to use more and more data, more proprietary data, more valuable data. On the other hand, the constraints to use the data are just growing and growing. So how do you bridge this growing gap? That's a question. And the answer to that question is confidential computing. Basically, you want to process this data, get insights, run Gen AI models. But data, you can do all of this, you want to do all of these things on encrypted data. Encrypted data, by definition, shouldn't leak any information about the data. So it's a general, very powerful solution. And when we say that it's future-proof, this is what I mean, because it's going to be robust to newer regulations, right? It's not a point solution, which just are good enough for today's world.
Wonderful. Now, what does success look like on the other side? I know you today shared a long list of benefits of confidential computing. Two that were particularly intriguing to me were access to new business insights and improved machine learning training. But I presume both in terms of positive business outcomes and new technical capabilities, successful implementation is going to enable all kinds of things.
Yeah, so the success on the other side, enterprises, what they can do and how they can use the generative AI, right? It's like I mentioned, and I was not joking, and it's like it's going to disrupt every business. And today, the organizations already are using AI more and more. So according to this McKinsey report, the number of companies who use generative AI almost doubled since last year, in 1 year, from 33% to 65%. And in many cases, if I remember correctly, the growth was from 30% to 51%. They use generative AI for more than one use cases, for more than one business functions. So, and the most popular are marketing and sales, creating targeted messages, and prioritizing the sales opportunities, to product and service deployments, right? Developing the services, deploying the services. Then it's for IT, it's about triaging the tickets, and answering these tickets, customer support. So, and this is just the beginning. And then it's for individual users, developers, right? And to use this generative AI from everything from composing emails, searching for the relevant information across your files and in your email, across your email, summarizing and writing reports about meetings or, for instance, customer meetings and things like that. And of course, helping with development or application development like Copilot from Microsoft and many others. Actually, almost every company right now, for their development tools, they also added a Copilot, right? And the data speaks for itself, it's like from this, all this analysis shows that the productivity of users using these tools growing also, from 5% to 70%, right? Depending on the particular task. And this means that with the same people, you can do more. Doing more means that you are going to get your products to market faster, right? Which means improving your competitive capabilities, right? You are doing better in the market, you get more market share, more revenue, and, you are going to be much more successful. And if you don't do that, right, you are going to lose market share, right? It's actually being successful in applying and leveraging generative AI to your business. It's existential for a company.
Well, those business outcomes in the near term seem realistic and compelling. I wonder if we could talk about AI in particular in its development. So you seem to invoke Amara's law that we overestimate the near-term impact of technology,
Yes.
but underestimate the long-term
impact.
impact. What is the relationship between confidential computing and AI's own long-term development?
From my perspective, I think that the major role confidential computing is going to play is not only enable you to get the business results quicker, but I do hope that long term, which will preclude some of the point regulation which are going to hurt the economic growth, right? So what I mean by that is, like, for instance, if confidential computing is going to be prevalent, okay, and if confidential computing is going to guarantee or enable, guarantee that you can do what you can do today on the data in clear, but now on encrypted data, right? There are many things about you don't need even to spell out, because, like, for instance, you are going to use this, and I'm even talking about the previous even regulation on HIPAA or GDPR or some of these things. You don't need even to spell this kind of regulations as if everything is going to be done on the encrypted data, right? And again, because each of the regulation will have unintended consequences, right? You cannot possibly think about all the impact will have, right, on new applications, what kind of limits it's going to put on, the innovation, right? So that's kind of what I think and I hope that will allow allow us. So maybe in some sense, ironically, it will require fewer isolation. So it's kind of unleash the innovation because, I'm only computing on encrypted data.
So confidential computing will effectively preclude regulatory constraints on.
Yes, specific constraints, and the more constraints you have, the more you are going to put limits to kind of innovation. And in many cases, it's unintended.
Let me ask about your strategic thinking with regard to confidential computing. How are you engaging with this market from a strategic perspective, and how's that changed? Where's the dynamism in your current thinking?
Yeah. So look, the Holy Grail, it's quite simple. I want to do whatever I want today. I want to see the same in terms of the power, flexibility, easy of use. What you can do today using the tools on the data in clear, I want to do that on the encrypted data, right? That's kind of the dream, the Holy Grail. And I want to have audit of the lineage, so I know absolutely for sure which data was used to do what kind of processing, which data was used to answer particular queries and things like that, right? That's kind of the dream. Now, from here, to achieve that, there is, of course, a lot of things to do. And it has to start with the perception. You remember that this kind of, and one of the perception, for instance, for better or worse, is that this kind of ensuring this kind of properties that you can process the data without leaking the information and you have perform general computation of the data, it's extremely expensive, right? It's homomorphic encryption and things like that. It's almost like infeasible, right? So now, of course, with the hardware enclave, things have changed. But even with the hardware enclaves, the earlier hardware enclaves from Intel AGX and so forth had a lot of limitation. So just people right now are conditioned on here, oh, you want to do that? Oh man, it's going to be so inefficient. It's going to be cost so much. I'm not going to do everything today. And this is kind of at odds with the fact that I need to do it today. I need to do yesterday in order to maintain my competitive edge. Right? So that's kind of, it needs quite a bit of education. And to because it's all we have these decades that people being conditioned that providing these properties is very expensive, very hard to use, it's not general, I cannot use your favorite tools and things like that. So, and just proving that, which is not going, and showing, I think it's going to require, like I mentioned, market education, and of course, for us to deliver on the promise. I mean, it's like, it's from what you want to do it to actually doing it. Things are, it's a gap. Things are not necessarily easy, they are very hard.